Hello, my name is Caleb Smith with the Rocket Miner newspaper, here with an update for August 31st, 2020. One of the developments that occurred over the weekend was Sweetwater County School District Number 1 announcing the guidelines that spectators will have to go to be able to attend and participate in fall events, sports, concerts, performances, whatnot. Quoting from the statement, "Now that the fall activities are in full swing, it is very important that we explain the criteria for attending events at Rock Springs High School, as well as some of the requirements for attending away games for certain sports. Please keep in mind that the sole purpose of these requirements is to maximize the opportunity for these students to compete, and more importantly, to finish their season." Some of these guidelines are coming from the state, such as the Wyoming health orders that are currently in place through at least September 15th. When it comes to outdoor events, when it comes to indoor events, those are presently limited to no more than 250 people or spectators at any single venue, game, or event. That specifically includes volleyball and girls swimming and diving, according to the school district. Additional rules include the requirement that people wear face coverings at all times, and that failure to do so will lead to someone being ejected from the premises. Additional rules will include having to pass a touchless temperature screening, go through a screening for common COVID-19 symptoms, such as cough, headache, diarrhea, I'd anticipate. The school district says that there will be no food or concessions at these events, but that spectators can bring their own water bottles. When it comes to high school volleyball, one thing that will be new is that people will have to have their tickets in advance. There will be a specific window, and people will have up till Thursday afternoon to purchase their tickets online. And if you miss that deadline, you're out of luck for that game. There just won't be any last-minute Friday night, "Hey, let's go to the game." No, you're going to have that in advance, and once there, you're going to have to provide proof of identification. Additionally, whether it's a concert, game, debate, once the event's over, people are expected to leave, and they are not going to be allowed to congregate or linger on school premises after the conclusion. There will also be a limitation when it comes to tickets for away games. Going back to volleyball, each athlete will be allowed up to 2 tickets for an overall maximum of 72 tickets. The idea is that means when there's a contingent or group from a away community, they're going to be limited in size, and it's my understanding that will be reciprocated. So whether it's the Tigers on the road or a bunch of outsiders coming into Wolf Stadium, there'll just be a set number, a maximum number that they can turn out. Outdoor events also are dictated by the state health orders that are currently in effect. According to those, outdoor gatherings can be no more than 50% of a venue's capacity, up to 1,000 seats. That specifically includes golf, tennis, cross country, and football. Many of the same requirements are in play. That includes the face mask requirement, temperature screening, symptom survey, no food or concessions, no gathering after the game. When it comes to tickets, there will be a similar window where people will have to purchase varsity football tickets by no later than Thursday afternoon, and later provide proof of identification. When it comes to the away games, each athlete will be allowed up to 2 tickets with a maximum of 100 sold for the away game. Just going back to the statement from the school officials, just further highlighting their guidelines and their goals with these extra requirements. Remember, these events are for our students, so let's give them the best possible chance to compete. Just continuing on in the same vein of the coronavirus, let's just look at the national number. According to the Associated Press, in the United States, the virus is blamed for more than 180,000 people who have died, and another 6 million confirmed infections in the United States. Worldwide, the death toll is put at almost 850,000, with more than 250 million cases. One thing I look at is, I've been trying to look at more lately, is the average, just because when there's the weekend, there's a little bit of delay when those come in, so it's just better to look at the recent trend of how many deaths and new cases a day there has been. The AP reports that the United States is recording, on average, about 900 deaths a day from COVID-19, and about 42,000 newly confirmed infections per day. And that's down from their peak in mid-July when we were averaging about 70,000 new lab-confirmed cases a day. Turning to a additional number breakdown from the Wyoming News Exchange, we saw the total number of active cases in Wyoming decline by a touch on Wyoming. The number of active coronavirus cases in Wyoming fell by 23 on Monday, as recoveries were reported among 45 people with lab-confirmed cases. It's looking at the Wyoming Department of Health's numbers. Its daily coronavirus update said an increase of 22 confirmed and probable cases were offset by 45 recoveries, leaving the state with a current number of 624 active cases that health officials are aware of. Of that number, that includes 13 active cases in Sweetwater County. Overall, dating back to when the coronavirus was first detected in Wyoming in mid-March, we've had 3,264 cases. The number of probable cases where people have symptoms or contact with a confirmed case, but they don't have a test lab result themselves, that increased by 3 Monday to be 578. And overall, we've had 3,181 total cases, and that's a breakdown of 2,693 people who were lab confirmed and 488 probable cases. Now, one other COVID topic I want to touch on today also comes from their Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. They updated their website, and there's been some new reports put out. And one thing that I saw that was trending online was more than one spectator noting that a majority of cases, fatal cases associated to COVID-19, or about 94%, involve people who already had a previously existing condition. According to the CDC, only about 6% of people had COVID-19 as the one single cause of death listed on their death certificate. And I've spent some time in the past looking at what's required for death certificates and just a quantification of that stuff. It's one of those things that a coroner just can't put down, she was 98, she died of old age. There are strong guidelines regarding that, and the expectation is that you're supposed to just list what were the things that were related to the cause of death. And that's why in multiple cases it can be more than one thing. If you have a 79-year-old smoker, you're probably going to be putting down multiple things, because there's a good chance that cancer's in play, that you've got pulmonary stuff. You may or may not have heart disease as well, and or you may have just some more recent acute stuff like the flu or something. In other cases, like a car accident, they're going to go, well, the guy was decapitated. COVID doesn't have anything to do with that. Even if they tested positive, we're not going to put those down in the numbers. Multiple people from the lowest to the highest levels have stressed that they want to get these figures right, because these fatality statistics are used in more than one area, and it helps guide funding levels, programs, and whatnot. It is self-sabotaging to have numbers that are overinflated or underinflated, especially since these are numbers being recorded by, in many cases, people who have been part of the community for a long time. they have a vested interest in wanting to do what's right by the community, and that's having the most accurate count possible. One other thing to note, and it actually was something that I was reminded of by the governor, Mark Gordon, who was in town last week for the Stockgrowers Association. He was telling a lesson that his wife's been trying to get across, and she has a medical background. And he said that there's not everybody always recognizes there are a lot of conditions that people deal with, hypertension. Diabetes, it's additional weight than what you know is healthy for your body mass. There are a lot of things that people live with. They're maintaining. It's not always the happiest existence, but it's something that they've learned to live with, and that they're continuing to cope with. And then you have something like influenza or COVID-19, and that's what throws things out of whack. You may think of some people that they were a stalwart of health for decades. They had a fall, they may have broke a hip, and very quickly afterwards they go downhill. It's one of those things where the death certificate will probably list any lingering conditions that had maybe hurt the organs, hurt the plumbing, so to speak. And then it's going to be that final thing that, like I said, pushes them over the edge. And that's where a lot of these COVID cases, honestly, there are a lot of there are a lot of certain conditions that are going to have multiple combinations listed, and there are just a lot of pre-existing conditions that the majority of the population deals with. So let's just dive in a little bit deeper into some Centers for Disease Control numbers and figures. A 2019 report pulls figures from 2017 and 2016, so we're going to look at those. Those are the ones that had the most recent breakdown. And listing the most common causes of death. In 2017, there were 2,813,503 fatalities reported in the United States. The biggest was almost 1/4 of all cases was heart disease. That was just a little bit under 650,000 cases. Cancer was next. Took up more than 1/4 of cases, with just less than 1,000 away from 600,000 cases, or 599,108 cases. Then there's a great drop. Accidents made up about 6% of the population. It was just a little bit under 170,000 cases. Down the line, chronic lower respiratory diseases. That's like smoking condition stuff, coal lung, that type of stuff. That's about 5.7%. Stroke or cerebrovascular diseases, that's about 5.2%. Alzheimer's disease, 4.3% of all U.S. fatalities. Diabetes, 3% of all fatalities in the U.S. Influenza pneumonia, only about 2%, with about 55,000 cases. And the CDC notes that was a higher year. In 2016, influenza pneumonia didn't even make the top 10. Nephritis, nephrosis made up about 1.8% of all deaths. And then intentional death, suicide, made up 1.7%. And just adding up the top 10, that's about 74% of all cases, 3/4. There are a bunch of other smaller things, the number of people who struck by lightning, for example. That's the type of thing that make up the small remnant. And like I said, heart disease, cancer, stroke, those are things that are likely to be also listed as having multiple conditions. And just looking at things that are some of the more common risk factors for the coronavirus, as we presently understand it. Let's start with diabetes. According to a 2017 report for the Centers for Disease Control, more than 100 million U.S. adults, just adults, not talking kids, but adults, were living with diabetes or pre-diabetes. And this is 2015 data. It's a little bit older. But at that point, about 30.3 million Americans, or about 9.4% of the population, have diabetes. that another 84.1 million had prediabetes, a condition that's not treated, often leads to type 2 diabetes within 5 years. So, I mean, that already is a more than a third of the American adult population. Similarly, cancer. The National Cancer Institute states that approximately 38.4% of men and women will be diagnosed at cancer at some point during their lifetimes, based on 2013 to 2015 data. Obesity. The National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey report from 2018 stated that 48% of the population is obese. And that's an increase. It had held at around 34 to 35% from 2005 to 2012, according to the data. And like I said, now 40%, that's 2/5 of the population. And cardiovascular disease. The American Heart Association, in a 2019 report, said that 121.5 million adults in the United States, or 48% based on 2016 figures, have cardiovascular disease. So, like I said, I see too many people who are a bit dismissive, saying, they had other conditions, they were going to die anyway. I get very upset when people talk like that. I really hope that you're not talking such trash at a funeral or another mourning event where someone's lost someone and they regret every lost minute, every second that they had, that they may not have been able to squeeze in time with these people. That's a dirtbag argument to begin with. But when you're also thinking of the fact that, like I said, I can't quite put together the Venn diagram talking about, okay, 1/3 of the population has, more than 1/3 of the population is going to have cancer, about 40% is going to have obesity, the almost 50% of the population with cardiovascular disease. You get to a certain, that means that a lot of the American population right now is known to be at risk for the coronavirus. That's not to say that they're going to get it, or if they do get it, that they're going to die. We're thankful that treatment continues to be better. I think that people wearing masks and doing distancing and other common sense, simple steps that have been asked of them continues to be effective, and that's why our numbers, which have been higher, are not as bad as they used to be. And I'm hopeful that we never get anywhere near some of the highs that we saw just over a month ago now. It's why I'm hopeful that people are still taking steps to be considerate. That's why I'm glad that, yeah, they're a hassle. And honestly, I don't like being cramped up in a mask or face shields for too long. But I'm willing to do so if it's reducing the risks that I pose to others, to the people to the left of my right, that I don't know if they've got diabetes, or if they have it, if they're maintaining it properly. Honestly, a certain percentage of the people I know with diabetes, they eat a lot of chocolate and ice cream and sugary stuff, and aren't managing quite as much as they could be. I also know some people who are very dependable on that, and that's another risk factor. We don't necessarily know what puts the people around us at risk, or should they get sick, what are the risk factors of the people they're going to bring us back to. I know when I'm out in public, I'm very conscious of the fact that most of the people I'm interacting with are young, stalwart people that they could probably catch it without any trouble. But I don't know how many elderly people are in their life. Or I know some young friends that they have lingering lung issues. Or I know some smokers that they're dealing with some of the consequences earlier in life than they thought they would be. These are things that, because I can't control all the risk factors, and I can't know all the risk factors, but I can control some of them. Not all, but some. This is why I'm encouraging people just to be neighborly, be considerate, wear a mask. Whether you're in the stands at Tiger Stadium, whether you're watching the drama club put together the later production, or like catching out the singers, or any of the other activities, that we're hopeful that if the community plays its part, that we back up our kids, our teachers, sponsors and whatnot, that we'll be able to still hold on to a bit of what makes public school and our community special, and that they'll be able to see this stuff through. It'd be a shame that if the community can't be bothered to sacrifice just wear a little bit more time in masks, and that means that we lose the football season, that we see the school musical postponed and canceled again. I think we're better than that. I'm counting on that we're better than that. Anyway, this is Caleb Smith with the Rocket Miner newspaper, wishing you a good day and a safe tomorrow. Bye.